let's roll straight into it. Welcome back, episode 2. First of all, let's reflect on the last podcast. You got some nice feedback.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, well received. I think, a lot of people love the podcast. I think what was the main thing was a bit too long.
Yeah.
So I think this one we're going to try and keep it a bit condensed, a bit more condensed. Yeah, just to keep people engaged.
In terms of what we're going to talk about today, the first port of call being customers that you sell your beans to and the sort of feedback that you get and how that looks. And you mentioned that you had like an experience with the customer who felt that they had a problem with the bean, but actually they just needed some training and you've invited them in, and it's been quite a good educational piece, which has led on to the training in here, right?
Yeah, definitely. I think for us, that customer as an example is that you have the product. So you have the coffee beans, and the customer. So the whole story was the customer was saying that there's a problem with the beans. Now we know that there was nothing wrong with the beans. And one of the biggest issues that we find in the industry is that people don't actually know what to do with the beans at home. So they might have a coffee machine at home, and they just don't know what they're doing. And that's where we come in. Obviously, we try and help them sort of get the best out of the beans in terms of how to extract the coffee from the beans, essentially. And this customer in particular was saying to me, there's something wrong with your beans, you just want to let you know, want a refund. And I'm like, whoa, there's nothing wrong with the beans. Like the beans are fine. And I'm going through all these different things, trying to say like, look, can you let me know what your extraction times are? And she didn't have sort of any answer to the extraction times. I was like, well, that's really important, is to understand your extraction times, so that we can adjust your grinder and get it right. And she says, well, actually my machine automatically adjusts, which for me, I'm like, well, that's a bit of a problem, because if you can't adjust it yourself a little bit, you've got a problem. But we were still the problem. And the irony is, it didn't matter how many analogies that I used. I've kept trying to use one like an oven. It's like an oven. If we say like if the oven is automatically adjusting, you get a perfectly good chicken from Marks and Spencer's, and you're blaming the chicken's not great. It tastes awful. It's the same sort of analogy. If your oven is cooking it at 250 degrees, it's going to nuke it. It's the same with coffee. If you can't sort of adjust your coffee, you're going to have a problem. And that was like a massive problem, in the sense that the first thing is we're the problem, and we still are in that customer's view, is that there's a problem with your beans, but we're trying to educate people more that actually you need to have control over the coffee to try and fix it, if that makes sense.
And that's where I guess where we come into is we want to, and what we've always said is we want to make people have better coffee at home as well. Not obviously just be like a coffee shop so you can get good coffie, but so you can get good coffee at home and have that, those educational pieces. That's what we've done. That's it, bridge the gap. And again, I said it in the last podcast, where we even stand as barista, is like having those conversations to try and even educate somebody, even for like 30 seconds, of how to get better coffee at home. And we go and we drop into people's houses and get essentially help them make better decisions and better choices, one from the coffee beans, where they might buy them from, and and playing around with those variables on their machines, or whatever it is, whether it is even weighing coffee, to other little things as well in terms of their machine, whether it's filtered water, all that sort of jazz. There's actually a whole rabbit hole down there. And again, we would say like, some people will come into us and be like, I'm looking to start getting into coffee, and it's like, well, welcome to the rabbit hole. You can go quite far down it.
Let's say right, I imagine that a lot of customers that come in don't see the effort that goes into every single cup of coffee.
Yeah, and that's it.
At home, I'm sure it's all pre-ground that they would have been using. And what's the for a novice coffee drinker? I don't claim to be a coffee connoisseur of any sorts. Give me the difference between a pre-ground coffee and what you guys deliver to people's doors.
Yeah, I always say this. People come in and say about pre-ground coffee. First of all, I say like sort of in speciality coffee as a whole, it's a little bit frowned upon. I would say that, look, I get each to their own. Again, if you got budget restrictions and you don't want to buy the equipment at home, I get that. But it's like fresher is better. That's what I would say. So a bit like I always analogy of peppercorns. Why peppercorns come whole and not cracked? Because when you do crack them, you're getting that better flavor from the pepper. So same with coffee beans. Generally, they lose their flavor, they lose that aroma as soon as you grind it. So that it is a little bit frowned upon. And I say, I'm not saying that we don't do it. We do it for people, and we do grind your coffee. But we're saying over time, every day that goes past, you are losing that freshness.
Yeah. I think the more and more as well, we've been doing pre-ground coffee, it's becoming a bit of a problem for us as well as a business. Like a lot of people coming in and saying like, can we get this pre-ground for our Sage barista machine at home. I mean, it was that crazy.
We had
like a 1950s like.
we had old school like a coffee machine, and it was like it's ground for espresso. We're like, okay, great. So we roughly know what machines. Again, we've educated ourselves on what machines at home people have at home, what that grind size looks like on our grinder, on our big batch grinder. And he was like, yeah, espresso at home. We're like, okay, great. So your machine roughly, again, like we were sort of trying to gauge where he's at. He couldn't really say what model it was, and we were looking at what that could be between, like what grind size that could be. And he's like, yeah, espresso's it's fine. And he came back and was like, it's completely like choked the machine. So what that means is that basically no coffee, the water's going through, no water's passing through that coffee. And yeah, he came back and was like, there's literally nothing. He said, there's nothing, no water for about 30 seconds. And we're like, okay, right, that's fine. So we had to, in with trial and error, he brought in some old coffee that he had. Don't know what roast it was, don't know where it was from. And it was like the coarsest setting on it. It's like almost instant coffee going through. Yeah, instant coffee going through his espresso machine, which is like, yeah, again, education for us as well. Like actually, there's some machines out there, I don't know what machine it was. Some machines are out there that have way different like coarseness settings for extracting their coffee.
It's a problem for us though, because like with machines at home, you've got your variables in terms of the amount of coffee that you put in your machine and also your grind size. And if you can't change them, once it's pre-ground, that's it. You're stuck with it. So if you can't change them, you've got a bit of a problem. And it's a problem for us.
It does come back to us.
It comes back to us because, people are like, this doesn't work. Therefore, it's a problem. Can I get a refund or can I get it ground again? Cost us another, product, whatever it is, £10 a bag. We got to find that money.
And how does that translate into B2B and working as a wholesale to other coffee shops, cafes?
Yeah, I mean, whatever they call it. But, at the end of the day, like the translation of the coffee itself, it's like, people do buy it from their shops. But, it's one of those things that shops have got to represent that coffee well for them to sell it, essentially.
Well, that's our opinion anyway.
Well, yeah.
That is our opinion.
Yes, that is our opinion, but it's a very, because we've got that expertise in the industry and we see it so often, is that, I mean, how many times, and this is a problem we have as well when we go like to other cafes, we obviously know what we're doing because we've been doing it for quite some time, and we know that a lot of cafes have not got the training and they haven't got the experience, and that's okay. That's why we're there, and we're there to help them. But one of the challenges is trying to then educate them that the training and the support is there. But a lot of businesses nowadays, and what we see is that it's a couple of things. Price is really important to them. Yeah. And here's one of the other arguments about price is the fact that a lot of business owners, they sort of perceive
the money in the door or the money out the door first.
Yeah. So the cost.
And like every nowadays we want to cut costs, right?
Of course. I mean, who wouldn't, right? But the problem you've got with that is you've got speciality coffee here. So you've got lovely Arabican coffee that's, full of flavors, highly scored. And then you've got like a Robusta coffee, which is a bit low grade, doesn't taste as nice. And some might go for a bit of both, and they might go the lower cost side and they go this way. And they perceive it as, okay, I'm paying less per kilo and that's saving me money. But actually what they don't see is it's not, because this lower grade coffee doesn't taste as good. And the problem with that is you then get 2 to 3 customers a day that might come in and go, actually, didn't enjoy that cup of coffee. I'm not going to go back. I'm going to go somewhere else. And then you lose them every day. You're losing like 10, 12 quid a day over a year.
For local shops that don't have the power of a Starbucks or a, you haven't got that brand awareness.
Yeah.
So either, like locally or, we are sort of now working on strife for coffee shops, right? Like to lower costers and those sorts of coffee shops. But I imagine there are the individual, almost like, the SMEs of the coffee world, right?
Yeah.
And it's those that are probably going to be losing out from an LTD perspective.
Yeah, massively. And, and again, it goes down what I was saying is that, they're losing that regular customer coming back and they're not going to come back. And the other thing I've always said is that when you start going with lower grade coffee, generally it will come with less support. So less training as well. Once you're working with someone that's a bit more speciality, they generally want to represent that brand really well. So they want to be going into the cafe and saying, let me help you get the best out of this coffee. Let me give you the right training so you can represent us as well. But equally, they're then trying to support that small business to say, hey, let's get you better. Let's get customers coming through your doors, because people come back and go, that's an amazing coffee. We love it. And then the other challenge that we have as well is we see people who say, oh, we've already got specialty coffee, and we go in and we're like, yeah, you do, but like, you clearly haven't had that support, and you clearly haven't had that training, and
It's way off.
it's way off, and it's almost like it's almost, we laugh at it, don't we? They're almost like, you shouldn't be using the fact that you're using specialty coffee. So they go, oh yeah, we're going to buy this specialty coffee, and we are going to pay a little bit more, but actually they've got no idea what they're doing with it, and actually it's tasting either bitter or it's really acidic, and yeah, it's such a shame, because we see that so often, don't we?
Yeah, we do, and it is almost comical, because I just think like sometimes a business owner working in the coffee, you're really going to care, and you have that so much passion. But sometimes when it doesn't maybe come from the top, but being like having that huge passion for delivering that excellent coffee, it sometimes filters down to that barista. He's like, well, if someone above me doesn't care, why do I care? That's what it almost sometimes looks like. So it's like by having that, that better quality, and maybe going with a provider that can offer that training and that help might help bridge the gap that is kind of missing there.
I'm going to sway a little bit off topic here, so excuse me if you don't think it's the right way to go, but I imagine that the coffee owner, or the coffee shop owner, coffee cafe owner, is going to have the highest regard for their coffee than anyone in the building, most of the time.
You like to think so, right? Yeah, we'd like to think so.
However, and I'm comparing to other industries where employing like people out of school or out of college that are lower end of the pay scale, maybe. Is that a thing where you might have the person at the top of the business has that care and the passion for what they're producing, but then you are having to employ, because of pay gaps and stuff like that, to employ younger people that it's just a sort of a stepping stone in the road for them? Is that a thing? Do you see that?
Yeah. I mean, actually, it's a really good question. It's a really good point. And what I'll say, and something that I'm really proud about what we've done here, and I said this in the last episode, is that Australia is so different that they're almost baptized into it, right? From a young age, they're given the training to go, right, this is how you do it, yeah? And what we've done here, and I've seen it now, is we've got so many great baristas that are young, that when they come in the door, they had a bit, like when we interview, we recruit based on personality. So we're looking for that first. We can train the skill set second. But, they've all got great personality. They're great with people. We start them sort of on the till dealing with people, and then eventually we get them into coffee. But now they become amazing. And that's the difference. So you start with the owners who are passionate about coffee, and it's important that the owners then cascade that down, or I hate saying down, but across, so that everyone has got that sort of skill set. And not all businesses have the sort of time and the resources to do that. But that's where I think, and this is what I said earlier, is that's where we come in, and that's where other good quality, and I know that many other sort of good specialty roasteries do support these businesses in that level of training, that they can go, let us help you. Let us help take that burden off you. You focus on day-to-day management. We can support you. We've got a training center here at our own site, so they can come to us, or we can come to you. So yeah, it's a really good one.
That's a great point.
It's the SME side.
That's a great point. And again, kind of goes back to what you said. It's like that effect that, that in terms of business, had better quality, a better coffee tasting better as well from the skill set of the baristas, having help, if that is external help, great, to make that product taste better. I mean, like, isn't coffee shops one like one of the known businesses to fail in the first year?
Yeah.
Or the number one business to fail in the first year.
Percentage.
So people are maybe pumping out coffee shops because you think it's a great way to make money. But there's actually, if you don't have that product and I always say here, customer service and product. That's my two things I'm insanely passionate about. So that.
And it got me thinking about that place. He went to this cafe recently. I'm not going to say the name, but he sent me a picture and said, "Look at this flat white." It was like, I could see bubbles that big in it.
Call it an aero bar.
It was call it an aero.
It was a cappuccino. It was like a cappuccino-esque. And again, don't want to throw it under the bus, but cappuccino-esque for a flat white.
Yeah, it works. It was not even it was worse than a cappuccino, but it was all right. Businesses have this with staff where maybe the training isn't right there, but I remember I followed up on this one, and it was like, we're here, we can help you if you need it. And it was like, we're already using a lovely speciality. It goes back to like, okay, you might be, but are they providing you with that training? you know, because yes, you might be using it, but you're not representing it. You've got to understand how to represent that coffee well.
Yeah, because it's like external and internal. If you're not going to have the external help from like the manager or the owner, whatever that might be, at least, you know, seek it externally. Be like, look, we need some help upskilling some part-time baristas or whatever that might be.
Do you see a pushback? Do you see pushback?
Yeah.
Almost from as a bit of a pride thing.
Not sure why. It's frustrating.
Yeah.
It's very frustrating, to be honest, from us, because obviously we love it. We live and breathe coffee.
Yeah.
But it's very frustrating because it's almost like, listen, the reality, we're not trying to. Yeah, we're not really trying to like overly sell. It'd be great if a sale comes of it, but usually I've always said this with the sale is that build this sort of like relationship and build like, we're actually trying to help you.
Yeah, because we've had a few reach out to us as well, asking just for training, not even wanting to use our coffee, because they maybe haven't tried their coffee yet. Maybe we're further afield, but it's like just kind of reaching out just for like, do you do training for our staff to come and then it's a bit of a grey area because like you're actually with a coffee roaster, they should be providing this already.
But that's also a nice. Oh, sorry, I'm talking sales now, but that's also a nice lead in. That is, someone's approached you with a problem, as in they're not getting the training. You could turn around on them and say, well, actually, you should be getting training from your roaster. Are you? And they say no.
Yeah.
There's a question to be asked there of the roaster.
Yeah, that's it. And
But I get it, you know, like there's a lot of businesses owners out there where, you know, margins are tight and obviously they're trying to cut costs. The first thing they look at is, right, this coffee costs maybe a bit more than what I'm paying. Why would I do that if I'm trying to cut costs? So that's that bit I get, but I think that what they're not seeing the bigger, there is a turn, and that turn is quality. You know, we went to one place and you know, they were using specialty coffee, way off, like way off.
And expensive as well.
And really expensive, like London-esque prices. And we walked out and we were like, wow, like, you know, you can't be using that word speciality. That was way off.
Yeah.
You've pulled out some of the hardships of local coffee shops or cafes. Tell me about some nice experiences that you've had with other.
You've gone quite recently, right? You've gone quite recently.
Remind me what was. Hold on, which
Weekend.
Talk to me, spell it out. I miss.
Tuesday. It was on Tuesday. Oh yeah, it was memorable.
Tuesday gone?
Yeah, no, it's Tuesday now. Where'd you go Saturday?
Okay, yeah, pleasant. Yeah, but yes, okay, yeah.
Good experience.
Yeah, good experience.
You were saying from a holistic
Oh, okay, yeah,
as well, right?
from me going out. Yeah. I mean,
you said that was a good one. You said good coffee.
I mean, I expect nothing less on that, yeah.
Why is that?
Because, and I'll openly, I don't usually use names in these podcasts, but this is Carvey Coffee in Winchester, and the guy that runs that or owns that is the 6-line UK
Something like that.
latte art champion, Dan to Man. We got his book. I think he's got his book here.
Yeah.
You know, lovely guy. And it's funny because actually I went there and I was thinking it should be great.
Yeah.
But would it be? You know, you know, because are the standards there? But I was telling Scott, like I went there and it was it was really on point. Like the decor was amazing, like every bit of attention to detail. The food was phenomenal, and that really surprised me because I wasn't expecting that. I was expecting great coffee, but they've obviously got really good sort of menu and chefs that look into new sort of trending dishes, and it was phenomenal. But the coffee was really, really good. But again, I'd have expected nothing less, really, based on his sort of skill set. If you've won it 6 times, you must love, a bit like us, we live and breathe coffee, and that was a great experience. And actually, it's quite funny because that's one of the rarest things that I've had for a very long time. I've gone to some numerous places around here, Berkshire, Surrey, and I'm like, they do that really well. They might do like their pastries or their bakery really well, but the coffee lets them down.
Yeah. No, I guess likewise. I'm in London, like around Wandsworth way quite a lot, and that's kind of renowned for its like real independence. So if you're not good there, it's kind of reminds me a little bit like Australia and like Melbourne where I was. It's like if you're not good, no one's going to go there. So there's like a general like specialty coffee like bubble where if you're not good, you will stand out like a sore thumb. So everywhere is pretty good. Good machinery. Yeah, good machinery. Yeah, obviously they've got good training and good standards in place. I mean, London's just there's a lot of them, right? There's a hell of a lot of coffee shops. So it's like there is like a bubble of specialty coffee shops which have good coffee. And again, if you're not good, you're not going to survive.
You know, that Carvey, the cafe, was a really good example though of that detail of representing coffee really well, food really well, is that the whole of Winchester, really busy, like, I mean, super busy. nearly everywhere it was all right. It wasn't busy, but they were okay. A few customers here and there. This place was booming. It was a queue out the door for as long as I can remember. It was insane.
cool.
And that shows that people see and can taste the difference. And I remember saying it in the last...
And they're not short of shops next door either.
Right, they are cafes
But that's also
everywhere.
Because I would say in Winchester, well, a good example, again, a sort of smaller city there, but like that sets almost the standard as well. So like others around it, I bet I know for a fact there's some really good ones around that area. So it's almost setting that standard, being like, actually they're doing it well.
And that's the goal for you guys, right? Set a standard and hope that people join you on the journey rather than...
Yeah. Do you know what though? I think we already have here in Berkshire, and you know, and that's not me being egotistical. I've seen it and I'm hearing it. You know, customers saying that you the best coffee, and that's what we set out to be.
Yeah,
You know, I didn't want to pretend that we were going to be the best at doing the best brunch menu from the kitchen. That wasn't us. You know, we were going to be about coffee, and everyone's been saying it is set the standards. I'm not going to lie. Yes, I think that there are. When I go to places like this, I go, that's a great idea, and I might take little bits from it, and hopefully we can maybe introduce it here. But yeah, I think we now have sort of raised that, particularly in Berkshire now. People are like, you want a really good coffee, that's where you go.
Yeah.
Thanks, mate.
Yeah, thank you.